Went upstairs about an hour later. He was laying in bed, groaning, and he said, "Dad, I really thought you were my friend." And I said, "Oh, how have we misunderstood each other so long?"
Oh, buddy.
I barely like you.
Yeah.
So
Friends don't pay for college.
Now, one other kid in this neighborhood does chores.
You're gonna get in trouble, Murtaugh.
Hey, Ma! Can we get some meatloaf?
He started it.
Mom!
What?
Shut up!
What is the matter with you?
I know it's a school night, so we're just gonna get right down to it.
Welcome to another edition of Fearless Parenting. I'm Harry Hodges Harrison Jr., and with me, of course, is childless, godless, brideless Zach.
Wow.
Hello, Harry.
Hello, Zach.
Thank you for having me back.
You're looking very alone.
Thank you. It's a long table in the new studio. What are you going to do? Yeah.
And our special guest is Josh Hart, who has just had a baby.
Baby boy.
Yeah,
he is 9 months on the 4th. So.
Wow. So we have a new dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Josh, how excited are we?
I'm a lot more excited in 9 months than I was like in 3 months. Those first 4 were pretty tough with the every 2 hours waking up and the diaper changing and we still change diapers, but just that constant sense. Now he can kind of play and interact and feedback a little bit, which helps with the parenting.
We've never done a show, Zach, just for dads.
No, we haven't.
But we have one now.
We do.
We have a dad here. We don't have moms. We're not messing it up. It's just about dads. And I think that that dads have a different What was your reaction when your wife said, "Honey, it's blue"?
Actually, oddly enough, my wife, I kind of told her she was pregnant. She's very, the worst case scenario, whatever the worst possible scenario is, that's what's going to happen. And so when she was getting the symptoms of pregnancy, she thought that she had kidney failure because she was peeing a lot, because she became tender in her breast. She thought she had breast cancer. Like, it was like the worst case scenarios were happening, and she was freaking out. You know what? Maybe take a test. And so sure enough, the test came back positive. And like, you know what? That was a 4-year-old gag gift of a pregnancy test. So let's take another one tomorrow. And then I remember when that first thing, and when it came back, and I was at work, and she said, "Hey, I took the test. It's positive. So we are pregnant." I remember like thinking like it's cool. And that like it was something that we never planned on having kids. We always talked about like not having kids actually. And so it became like this realization that like my whole life isn't over, but is about to change dramatically. And so trying to wrap my head around what that means, and it's still to this day, I'm doing that every single day, wrapping my head around what it means to be a father, what it means to be a dad.
Were you afraid?
I think
initially.
I think everyone's afraid. If you're not afraid, you're not taking it, seriously enough, because you now have been given a human being to take care of, provide for. Every decision you make no longer is just about you or your wife. There's a third party that is forever there.
Absolutely. I think a lot of wives, I was scared witless. I absolutely just, okay, this is the greatest thing. I'm like, God, what am I going to do? I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I'm good enough, strong enough, smart enough, rich enough. Yeah. I'll never figure this out. And I think that a lot of wives don't appreciate the stress and fear a husband goes through initially. Yeah. Because, even though we live in a day where everything's equal and women work and men work, it's still, men still feel like, and I think their wives feel that way too, you got to support us. Yeah. You're the man. You got a child now, and you need to grow up and sell the 2-seater. And
yeah, I did have to get rid of my truck. I had a 2-seater pickup truck that I loved. And that did have to go for the Subaru Outback that we had to buy. But ultimately, it was one of those things, the one like sort of concern that I'm having, and I had some friends of mine that had kids, and this is something that I will want to continue on. But when they heard that my wife was pregnant, they came in town for a dadschler party.
Ooh, a dadschler party.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that was
Yeah, so it was one of those things. You can coin that phrase, and there you go. Dadschler party was an idea that they came in, and we went out for like scotch and cigars, and they go, "Here's everything that no book will tell you. Here's that the hormones of your wife are about to go from like crazy to off the charts." And just like say yes, go with it. And one of the things that they told me was to just give a lot of grace, like give each other a lot of grace in those first, year and a half, because it's just full on, like you're getting 3-4 hours of sleep a day if you're lucky. And it was just intense. The one thing that, they didn't prepare me for, and I've kind of had this like thought in my head, and there's no one really to talk to about it. But it's like it's weird because I think that guys are severely underrated for what they do. So for me, I was very active. Like the first 2 weeks I had off from work, and I changed every single time. My wife never changed a diaper, never got him dressed, never got him ready. All she got to do was breastfeed and just recover from a very traumatic, delivery. So
Sure.
I get that. But no matter what you do, you can never be mom. Like you can't replace mom. So the harder a guy tries to be involved, to be engaged, it's never enough because you're not mom.
It's a fine line. You want to be supportive and you want to be dad. I mean, you want to be the dad, and you are the dad. But at the same time, you realize you don't have a boob, and you don't underestimate the importance of the boob. I mean, it's like,
He knows. He knows I don't have a boob.
It's everything to a baby.
Yeah.
But as a dad, you kind of want to. I hate to use this term, but you want to fight for time. I mean, you want to establish yourself in this baby's life, and you want to become part of it, his or her life. And it's. So how do you do it? How do you become? How have you become part of your child's life?
So with my new hours. So before I was going to get up at 4 a.m. and I was coming home around 1, and then at 1 I would take over, and until 7 that was like my time. But with this new 9 to 5 job, it's one of those things that I have made a point that I get up at 5:45 or 6 every day, and then I have those first 2 hours. So I let my wife sleep in. So after the last feeding, he's up, and then I play with him from 6 until 8 before I have to go to work, and then when I come home, I get about an hour and a half. But that's dramatically less time, like face-to-face interaction, than what I was getting before. And because of that, no matter what I do, it's one of those weird things. Because if I just quit my job to be full-on stay-at-home dad, that would be detrimental to the family.
Sure.
But if I go, hey, I really need to take out this client, and I'm going now on this outing at night. Well, then that's time away from my son. That's very valuable. So it's like walking that fine line. Every decision that you make is what's the return on my investment? So if I take, it's always hard to do that. And I think that no matter what, you're being viewed as you don't care as much as the mom does.
You can be perceived that way. One of the things I did when we had 2 boys, and I would pick my son up and plop him in the bathroom and let him watch me shave and shower and just, so he can kind of put it together.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is what dad does.
This is what dad does.
This is dad. Yeah.
Right. And I did that every morning. So it was kind of our time together. And literally he'd be on the bathroom floor looking and going, blue. And
down with the razor, up with the neck. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Not this way.
Yeah.
So that was our time. And then as he, I would read him at night. And I think that's something. I think dads have an opportunity in the early morning. I mean, if they really care, they can get up in the early morning and play with their baby like you're talking about. And then when they come home, it's so easy to say, God, just give me an hour with a scotch. Just let me put this day back. Let me just make sense out of it. Then I'll be a family man.
Yeah.
But you can't do that.
Nope.
The moment you walk in the door, I mean, they're waiting for you. And as my sons got older, they were waiting for me.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, you're home, now we can play.
Right.
And all you want to do is just lay on the couch and figure out who hit you this day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the things. So I still have that, sit down with a scotch, but that's at 9 now. And I changed that from when I first get home, and it's when take a breath and go and sit in the parlor and read the paper, to where now that's a 9 o'clock thing and not a 6 o'clock thing. So
right.
It's changed for me a little bit. I remember one of the conversations that my wife and I have had because we're raising a son, and we want him to be respectful and a good guy. But at the same time, we were raised totally separate. My wife's Filipino, so from an Asian family, they were raised with respect and honor and all those kind of things. And with my parents, it was the don't come home until the street lights are off, are come on. And it was like, get out there, take care of yourself. No one's going to fight your battles for you, those kind of things. So I like some of those elements of like raising a son who's tough, but also not that fine line of not being too tough. Like don't get picked on, but also don't pick on other people. So
yeah, when I was raising our boys, I taught them self-defense. I taught them how to throw a punch, and I told them I never wanted to see them fight.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like it's just something that Dad does is. Here's how you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like you said, you don't want to raise a bully. You don't want them to. You want them to be careful with this knowledge you're imparting, and that just depends on how much they perceive your values and how much they perceive that you put importance on them acting nice and acting kind.
Yeah.
If there's nothing at all wrong, I think most dads what they would aspire to is when it comes to children is raise independent children who can take care of themselves, but who are nice and kind to people. And you succeed in that, your job's done. You've done a great job as a parent. But it takes 18 to 20 years
to see if that paid off. Yeah,
to make that work.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the things my wife was, because I said, I'm going to have to teach him how to throw a punch. So I want to teach him how to fight,
right? And
then tell him never to do it.
Right.
Like that's one of those things that I don't want you to be a punching bag for someone, but at the same time, don't start it. And that whole thing for her was kind of a hard. It's like, I don't want you to teach him that. If you teach him to punch, he'll go around like, no, that's not necessarily true. My dad taught me like, don't get punched. Like, don't be a punching bag. If someone hits you, you can hit them back.
Right.
Totally fine. But don't instigate it. Like, don't go around and be the verbal pulley and then get mad when someone punches you. Like, be your best self at all times. So hopefully I can impart some of that as well. But it's a tough challenge, and as you kind of think about as they go through, everything that they do is an effect of what you impart on them, and that's a huge burden when you think about it.
When you ponder that everything you everything you say, every way you act, everything you do, you're teaching them something. You're teaching them how a man should act, or you're teaching them how a man should treat a woman, or you're teaching them what it means to be a man. And so if you want to be really careful with the lessons that you're imparting when they're 1 month old, 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, because I really firmly believe, and most social scientists agree, that by the time they're 3 or 4, your job's done. They've learned their values and morals that they're taking for the rest of their life.
I remember my dad. He was a Nazarene pastor. Very high moral fiber, very ethical. Always did the right thing. Taught me good values. But the things that I take away are the mistakes that he made. Things that I remember to this day are the off-color jokes that he would make just in passing and immediately regret making them, but he still made them and he vocalized them. And then that's what, when we're all sitting around the table, that's the stories we bring up. And so it's one of those things that, for all the good things that you do, the bad stuff's what your kid's going to remember. And so for me, I know I have to be very careful. Being brought up in radio, my mouth can tend to get, a little naughty some points in time. And so I have to remember that when my son's around, he is a sponge for
and
all of that.
When we talk about parenting as somebody who does not have kids and hopefully doesn't plan on having any in the near future, at some point, hey, yeah, of course. But for now, when you talk about how every little single thing you do matters in a level that you don't understand, that's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night. That's terrifying, like you said. But you also make a good point in that, I guess age happens. Your child will get older. Life will move on. Things will get picked up no matter what. So you kind of got to have a cool head about it, I guess. I guess you just got to be you and hope that works out.
Well, at some point you do learn. I can tell you that it all washes out. It all washes out. It all comes out in the wash. As they get older, you make mistakes. There would be many times I went to bed going, God, I can't believe I said that, or did that, or acted that way, and would feel just horrible, absolutely horrible. And the next morning, my kids had forgotten all about it. They just didn't even remember.
Yeah.
They hadn't brought it up yet.
Right.
But as a dad, you do the best you can do with the mindset of, I'm going to be a great father. I'm going to raise a loving child, and they will always know that I love them. And if you approach it with that mindset, then things will work out.
Right. You can't get so hung up on the idea that like it's all like it all matters, I guess. You can't get so hung up on man, that they're never going to forget that. That's going to be a thing forever, because if you do, you'll burst, right? You got to roll with the punches, I guess.
There was when my kids were maybe 2 and 4, I thought I would sneak into the room and scare them.
Okay.
And I scared the bejesus out of them.
Right.
I mean, they were in tears.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, and as a dad, I'm going, oh my God. I mean, I just felt so horrible. And this happened 30 long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still remember
Yeah.
doing it,
Yeah.
and I still feel guilty about it, that I made him cry, just trying to be dad.
Yeah.
Do
trying
they
to be
remember
funny.
this?
Hmm?
Do they remember this?
No, they don't even bring it up.
See,
Yeah.
that's one of those things though, because that was the thing with me. There's things I remember about my dad, things he would do, or even my mom, but mostly my dad, that I would bring up at some point. He'd be like, "No, I don't recall that at all." And there's other things I haven't brought up that I think to myself, he probably. What if he remembers that too? What if we both remember this thing that happened, and we both just keep it to ourselves because it's easier to not kind of air that with each other. It's easier to just keep that to ourselves. Well, you know what I'm talking
yeah.
about?
Well, also,
I realize that sounds twisted,
It
but
does.
I don't know, like little things. You know, a thing he said
I'm
once
gonna
at
let him
Home
go with
Depot,
this.
or who knows? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna back right out of this conversation.
I feel like we're like taxi cab confession here. It got weird all of a
right.
sudden.
Well, that's you know what? You guys do the rest of the show. I'm just gonna. I'll back out. That's fine.
well, I was going to ask you, Zach, what do you remember most about your dad, being a father?
My dad. Well, he's still around. That helps. You know, it doesn't feel as far away. He was a teacher, and I think in the classroom he presents himself in a slightly different way than he does at home. In the classroom, he's the authority, you know, and at home he's dad. He's a little bit more friendly. So I think about that kind of ideological split. When he gets to school, it's none of these kids are really my kids. They're here to learn. I'm teaching them. At home, it's okay. I got to take it a little easier, right? But he still kind of had that. So I remember that sense of authority in everything he did, but also like a level of kindness that I would presume is supposed to be there. Like I would presume he was presenting, right? He was acting authoritative, but really is being kind, and not the other way around, where he is authoritative and acting kind. So yeah, that's what I remember about my dad.
That's a good memory.
Thank
That's
you.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as a father, I want my kids to remember that I was kind. That,
of course.
That I taught them things that I thought were important, and that I expected the best out of them. And I think that, you know, a lot of fathers may think, well, I'm not sure I should have expectations. Let me tell you, you should have expectations. I mean, your kids will live up or down to your expectations. And that's something that expectations today are considered a bad thing. They're a good thing. You want to expect the absolute best out of your kids, and they'll give it to you.
So when you say expectations, do you mean like give them like, hey, I want you to be an honor roll student, or I want you to go to an Ivy League school, or I want you to like?
Okay, that's a good question. By expectations, I mean I want you to be your best. Mm-hmm. That's since I couldn't get into an Ivy League school, I couldn't hold that out. But I wanted them to use all of the gifts God gave them, all the advantages that we were giving them, and become outstanding people, and they did.
Yeah.
There's homes where the discussion of college is not even discussed. One home is like, of course you're going to college. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Another home is, well, you probably should get a job at 13, and you might be able to get out of high school. so there's two different kinds of, or many different kinds of atmospheres where kids can grow up in. But I wanted my kids to understand that they were very lucky, they were very, very blessed, they were very fortunate. They had to turn that and give that to other people, and they had to act like people who God had blessed a lot. So and they did, but that was my expectation. So when it was let down, then then we had trouble. We had issues.
So I want to chime in here real quick because this is actually something that I've thought about a lot as I've gotten older. My dad worked a lot when I was a kid. He had about an hour and a half commute both ways. So I was pretty much raised by my mom, and a lot of my personality came from my mom. But I think to how my dad used to come down on me about my grades, and just he wasn't an authoritarian. He wasn't abusive or anything like that. He would just be very disappointed in me whenever I didn't apply myself as much as he thought I could. And it wasn't until later in life when I got into college when I started to realize, oh, he just wanted me. He never expressed this to me, but I could tell that he just wanted me to have an easier time at life than he did. He wasn't stupid or anything, but he didn't apply himself at school very much. He didn't apply himself in college. He only spent about a semester in college. And then he started working. He worked his way up from the pack room to being vice president of the company that he was, but he worked very hard to get there. And when I look back at it was like, oh, he was just trying to instill in me this sense of responsibility and ownership over what I do that he maybe didn't have growing up or didn't appreciate growing up. And when I was a kid, I was like, God, he's just being a jerk. He's just coming down on me about my grades and all this stuff. And I didn't realize until later that he was actually trying to teach me stuff that I appreciate now. And I mean, he's still alive, and it's not that I can't tell him that, but it's something that, yeah, the weird relationship that guys have with their dads, that they don't appreciate all the lessons that they're being taught as they grow up until much later.
Yeah, and you don't really talk about them. That's what I was trying to get at earlier.
Golly,
taxi
you
cab
don't, and
confessions.
I haven't said, Dad, thank you for coming down on me when I got a B that one time and making me feel like an
my
idiot.
kids have actually said thank you.
I have. Have they really?
Yeah, they really expressed appreciation for.
Well, maybe
what
that's
I did,
being a parent.
Which is
I don't know.
Just like, gosh, that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
The best advice I give you, Josh, is you want to be their parent and not their friend. And I tell this story a lot about when my oldest son was in 9th grade, and he was on a highly competitive soccer team, and they won some major championships. So all 10 or 12 of these 9th graders thought, hey, let's go get some beer, and we'll walk down the streets of Richardson, Texas, down a neighborhood street drinking beer.
What a terrible idea for an evening. Yeah. Really?
So 5 cop cars were there, in a heartbeat.
Naturally.
Yeah.
What is this gang doing, rolling down the street drunk? So the team mom called me and said, you know what your oldest son has been doing? And I said, no, so she told me. So Sage came home Sage. She came home the next morning, and I said, so how'd it go? He said, oh, fine, everything's good. I said, yeah, here's why you're grounded. First off, are you stupid? Walking with 9 other kids carrying beer? That's 2 weeks. 3 weeks you lied. And the other 6, you broke the law and went against everything I wanted you to. And so I said, so just give me your keys. Summer's gone. And so he went upstairs, and then went upstairs about an hour later. He was laying in bed, groaning, and he said, Dad, I really thought you were my friend. And I said, oh, how have we misunderstood each other so long?
Oh, buddy.
I barely like you. Yeah. So
friends don't pay for college.
that's true.
Yeah.
So, okay, this has been fast, but we got to explore this again. Josh, thank you so much for rolling in and telling us about your young son. We'll keep track of how it's going with you. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Matt. And this has been another edition of Fearless Parenting. You can look for it on fearlessparenting.com. You can look at the books, buy the books, and share this with your friends. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Fearless Parenting is a production of the Real News Communications Network in collaboration with Harry H. Harrison Jr. This episode was recorded and edited by Matt Stoker and myself, Zach Lewis. Production music courtesy of the Audio Jungle Music Library. To find out more about Harry and his work, or to purchase one of his books, visit www.fearlessparenting.com.
listening to RMCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.